All right, gather round, because I've got a family secret that'll send shivers down your spine. You know how every family has its quirks, its peculiarities, and the occasional skeleton in the closet. Well, in my family, that skeleton was more than just a figure of speech. It was real. It all began with my great-grandfather, a man I had only heard stories about. According to my grandma, he was a recluse, a strange and reclusive man who lived on the outskirts of town in an old, decrepit mansion. The townsfolk whispered that he was involved in some dark, unspeakable deeds. But those were just rumors, right? When my great-grandfather passed away, the family was left with the daunting task of sorting through his belongings. The mansion was a maze of dusty rooms filled with antique furniture, decaying books, and old family portraits that seemed to stare back with accusing eyes. But it was what we found in the basement that sent a chill down our spines. Hidden away in a corner, beneath a tattered blanket, was a wooden crate. It was sealed with rusted iron straps, and it emanated an air of malevolence that was impossible to ignore. My grandmother was the first to insist we open it, despite the protestations of the rest of the family. Curiosity, it seemed, had a stronger pull than fear. As the lid creaked open, a putrid smell filled the air, like a noxious combination of decay and rot. Inside the crate, we found a collection of journals, written by my great-grandfather himself. They were filled with scribbled notes, strange symbols, and accounts of bizarre rituals that sent shivers down my spine. The more we read, the clearer the picture became. My great-grandfather had been obsessed with the occult, delving into forbidden knowledge that should have remained buried. He had performed rituals, made pacts with dark entities, and conducted experiments that defied all reason. And at the center of it all was a sinister, otherworldly presence he referred to as the Keeper. The Keeper, as my great-grandfather described it, was a malevolent entity that demanded a sacrifice, a life in exchange for unimaginable power and wealth. He claimed to have made this pact, and as we read on, it became evident that the sacrifice had been made. The journals spoke of family members who had mysteriously vanished over the years, their fates never revealed until now. I couldn't help but feel a sinking sensation in my gut as I read about distant relatives who had gone missing without a trace. It was as if the family had been cursed, its members unknowingly bound to a dark and terrible fate. And it didn't end there. The journals contained detailed instructions on how to summon the Keeper, how to make contact with this malevolent entity that my great-grandfather had seemingly forged a bond with. It was as if he had left behind a sinister legacy, a dark inheritance that now threatened to consume our family. As we continued to sift through the journals, we uncovered references to a hidden chamber within the mansion, a place where my great-grandfather had conducted his most forbidden experiments. Armed with newfound knowledge, we embarked on a quest to find this chamber, to confront the horrors that lay within, and to put an end to the sinister legacy that had plagued our family for generations. The search was grueling, and the mansion's architecture proved to be labyrinthine. We found secret passages, hidden doors, and rooms that seemed to shift and change when we weren't looking. It was as if the house itself was trying to keep us from our goal. But finally, after days of searching, we discovered the entrance to the hidden chamber. The door was old, covered in intricate carvings and strange symbols, and it radiated an aura of foreboding that made my skin crawl. With trembling hands, we pushed it open, revealing a chamber shrouded in darkness. As we ventured deeper into the chamber, our flashlights illuminated a nightmarish tableau. The walls were adorned with disturbing paintings, each depicting a family member meeting a gruesome end. In the center of the room stood an altar, covered in dried blood and surrounded by candles. It was there, on that altar, that we found the remains of my great-grandfather. His body had been mutilated, his face contorted into a rictus of terror. It was a sight that will haunt my nightmares for the rest of my days. But the most chilling discovery was yet to come. As we approached the altar, we heard a faint, echoing whisper. It was a voice, cold and hollow, emanating from the shadows. It spoke of power, of wealth, of the pact that had been forged with the Keeper. And then, with a bone-chilling certainty, the voice revealed itself. It was not my great-grandfather's, but something far more sinister. It was the Keeper itself, a malevolent entity that had been bound to our family for generations. In that moment, we realized the terrible truth. The pact my great-grandfather had made had not been broken. It had merely been passed down through the generations, a dark inheritance that had claimed the lives of countless family members. As the Keeper's voice grew louder, more insistent, we knew we had to act. We couldn't allow this malevolent entity to continue its hold on our family. With trembling hands, we performed a ritual we had found in the journals, one that was meant to sever the bond with the Keeper once and for all. The room trembled, and the candles flickered as we chanted the incantation. The voice of the Keeper grew more furious, more desperate, but we persisted. And then, with a blinding flash of light, the presence of the Keeper was banished from our family forever. The mansion, once shrouded in darkness, now felt like a weight lifted from our shoulders. We knew that the curse had been broken, that our family was finally free from the malevolent influence that had plagued us for generations. But as we left that accursed place behind, I couldn't help but wonder what other dark secrets lay hidden in the world, waiting to be unearthed. The legacy of my great-grandfather was a chilling reminder that some secrets are better left buried, for the price of forbidden knowledge can be far too high. All right, get ready to hear a family secret that's been haunting me for years. You know how some families have skeletons in the closet? Well, ours has something way darker than that, and I'm about to spill the beans. It all began when I was a kid, curious and nosy like any other. I had this habit of rummaging through old family photo albums and documents, trying to piece together our family's history. My parents weren't too keen on it. They'd always tell me to leave the past in the past. But you know how it is, right? Curiosity killed the cat, and I was that cat. One rainy afternoon, while my parents were out, I decided to take a dive into the attic. The attic was like a time capsule of our family's history, filled with dusty old boxes and forgotten relics. I was convinced that somewhere up there, I'd find the answers to the questions I'd been harboring. As I rummaged through the boxes, I stumbled upon an old journal. Its pages were yellowed with age, and its leather cover was worn and cracked, but it was the content that sent a shiver down my spine. The journal belonged to my great-grandfather, and it was filled with disturbing entries. He wrote about strange rituals, encounters with supernatural entities, and a deep obsession with a mysterious family heirloom, a cursed amulet passed down through generations. The amulet was said to possess immense power, but it came at a great cost. According to my great-grandfather's writings, it required a blood sacrifice to unlock its potential. The more lives it claimed, the more powerful it became. I couldn't believe what I was reading. It sounded like the ramblings of a madman, but the more I dug into our family's history, the more I realized there was truth to his words. Over the decades, there were inexplicable deaths and disappearances in our family, always linked to the possession of the cursed amulet. I knew I had to find that amulet and put an end to the cycle of death and despair that seemed to plague us. But the amulet had been missing for years, lost in the annals of time. With determination, I began searching for clues, following the breadcrumbs left behind by my great-grandfather's journal. It was a journey that led me to dusty archives, cryptic symbols, and eerie encounters with strangers who seemed to know more than they were letting on. As I delved deeper into the mystery, I uncovered a network of individuals obsessed with the amulet, each willing to go to great lengths to possess its dark power. It was as if the amulet had a sinister allure, drawing in those who craved its malevolent abilities. One night, As I was deciphering an ancient text that held the key to the amulet's location, I received an anonymous message. It was a warning, a chilling reminder that I was getting too close to the truth. The message urged me to abandon my search, to save myself from the horrors that awaited, but I couldn't turn back now. I had come too far, and the weight of my family's dark legacy hung heavy on my shoulders. I knew I had to find the amulet and destroy it, no matter the cost. As I followed the final clues, I found myself in a desolate, remote village, nestled deep within a dense forest. It was a place untouched by time, where superstition and fear reigned supreme. The villagers spoke of a curse that had plagued their ancestors for generations, a curse tied to the very amulet I sought. With their guidance, I ventured into the heart of the forest, where an ancient tree stood, its roots intertwined with the cursed artifact. It was a chilling sight, a grotesque fusion of nature and malevolence. But as I reached for the amulet, I was struck by a horrifying realization. The amulet wasn't just a source of power, it was a sentient being, a malevolent entity that had manipulated my family for centuries. It had drawn me here, to this very moment, to fulfill its insidious purpose. I had walked right into its trap. As I touched the amulet, a searing pain shot through my body, and I felt a surge of dark energy coursing through me. It was as if the amulet was consuming my very essence, absorbing my life force to fuel its insatiable hunger for power. In that moment of despair, I knew what had to be done. With every ounce of strength left in me, I chanted the incantation from my great-grandfather's journal, a spell meant to break the amulet's hold on my family. The forest trembled, and the amulet let out a deafening scream, a wail of agony and fury. And then, with an explosion of dark energy, it shattered into 1,000 pieces, its malevolent presence vanquished forever. But the cost was high. I had sacrificed a part of myself to destroy the amulet, and I would never be the same. As I left the forest, I couldn't help but wonder if the curse had truly been broken, or if it had merely found a new host. And that, my friend, is the disturbing family secret that has haunted me for years. The amulet may be gone, but its legacy lives on, a reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the closest of families. Gather around, because what I'm about to tell you isn't just a story. It's a chilling family secret that's been eating away at me for years, and I can't hold it in any longer. You see, every family has its quirks, its oddities, but ours is a nightmare dressed as a secret. It all started with a faded photograph I stumbled upon in the attic one rainy afternoon. It was a picture of a house I'd never seen before, surrounded by towering oaks and bathed in an eerie, unnatural light. The moment I laid eyes on it, my heart began to race, and an inexplicable sense of dread washed over me. I showed the photo to my parents, expecting them to dismiss it as a relic from the past. Instead, their faces turned ashen, and a hushed silence filled the room. My mom finally spoke, her voice quivering, and revealed that the house was an ancestral family estate, one they had vowed never to speak of. Curiosity got the best of me. I had to know more about this ominous place and why my parents had kept it hidden from me all these years. With every passing day, the urge to uncover the truth grew stronger until I couldn't resist it any longer. It was time to dig deeper. I started with the family's old documents and letters, unearthing cryptic references to the house and vague allusions to a dark secret that had plagued our bloodline for generations. The more I learned, the more the story began to take shape. The house was a cursed abode haunted by a malevolent force that was tied to our family's past. Each generation had experienced inexplicable tragedies, deaths, and disappearances, patterns that couldn't be ignored. And the curse always seemed to lead back to that foreboding estate. One night, unable to resist the pull any longer, I decided to visit the house. The drive there was surreal, as if the very world around me had grown eerie and surreal. When I arrived, the house stood before me, its presence a sinister shadow on the landscape. I pushed open the creaking front door and stepped into a foyer that seemed to stretch on forever. Dust-covered portraits adorned the walls, and the air was thick with an unsettling stillness. Every creak and groan seemed to whisper secrets, and I knew I was not alone. As I explored the house, I discovered hidden rooms, each more ominous than the last. And then I stumbled upon a locked door in the basement, a door that seemed to beckon me, its rusted keyhole glinting in the dim light. With trembling hands, I managed to force it open. What lay beyond was a chamber unlike any I had ever seen. The walls were lined with arcane symbols, and in the center of the room, a strange pedestal held a tome, a book bound in human skin, its pages filled with blasphemous incantations and unspeakable rituals. The realization hit me like a freight train. My family had dabbled in dark magic, and this house was the epicenter of their malevolent experiments. I couldn't help but feel the weight of the curse that had plagued my ancestors for generations. As I continued to delve into the secrets of the house, I uncovered a journal hidden in a dusty attic corner. It was written by my great-great-grandfather, a man who had dedicated his life to understanding the malevolent force that bound our family to this place. His writings detailed the rituals and sacrifices he had performed in a desperate attempt to break the curse. He spoke of a prophecy, one that foretold a descendant who would finally free our family from the grip of the malevolent entity. And that descendant, it was me. I was overwhelmed with a sense of dread and inevitability. It was as if I had been chosen to confront the darkness that had plagued my family for generations, to break the curse that had consumed so many lives. But there was more to the story, a twist that would shake the very core of my being. As I continued to read the journal, I realized that the malevolent entity wasn't just a force of darkness, it was a sentient being, one that had manipulated my family for centuries to ensure its survival. The entity had driven my ancestors to perform unspeakable acts, to make blood sacrifices, and to pledge their allegiance in exchange for power and protection. It had woven itself into the fabric of our family, becoming an integral part of our bloodline. With a growing sense of desperation, I knew I had to confront the entity and end this curse once and for all. But to do so, I had to perform a ritual that would sever the entity's connection to our family, a ritual that would require the ultimate sacrifice. As I stood before the entity, it manifested itself in a grotesque, shadowy form, its eyes filled with malevolence. I could feel its power, its hunger for my life force, but I was ready. I chanted the incantation, and with a blinding burst of light, the entity was banished. The curse was broken, but the cost was immeasurable. I had sacrificed myself to save my family, my very existence fading into nothingness as the malevolent entity was cast into the abyss. And so, here I am, a mere whisper in the wind, sharing this chilling family secret with you. The curse is broken, but at what price? As for my family, they may never know the darkness that once lurked within our bloodline, and that is a secret I will carry with me into eternity.